It makes so much sense to try to solve your biggest, hardest problem first, your highest leverage opportunity. It's the first domino, and if you can knock that one down, you can get everything else to fall. Or if you can move that giant boulder out of the way, the water can start flowing again. Solving this problem has a powerful downstream impact. So if you could just crack it, you get a lot of bang for your buck. It's great when you can do that. I want to talk about what to do when you can't. The thing is, you're good at solving problems. So chances are, if you could have solved this one, you would have by now. This problem is now entrenched. It's resistant to your efforts to fix it. It will need a different approach. So even though it is so tempting to keep putting all your effort into it and hammering away at it, in this video, I want to make the case for why you shouldn't do that. And I'm going to share what you can do instead that might just accidentally help you solve the problem when you're not even focused on it. What kinds of problems are we talking about? It might be a personal conflict that you can't resolve. It might be a big decision, like a career change or whether to move to a new city. It might be a major setback or a big opportunity. It might be that you're trying to change a habit. What is different about this problem? Why won't it budge? There are two possible reasons. Either there are constraints involved that you don't have control over, or it requires capacity that you haven't built yet. For instance, you may not have the power to solve it, or the time isn't right. Those are conditions beyond your control. On the other hand, you might be missing the necessary skills or knowledge, or insight, or leverage, or systems. These are capacity issues. So either the conditions have to change, or you have to change. Hearing that, you might think that that's a path toward fixing the problem, that you can force the conditions to change, or you can push yourself to change. Unfortunately, that won't help, and it might even make the problem worse. Trying to force the conditions to change is where we get the classic spinning your wheels metaphor. When you're stuck in the mud, hitting the gas will just make your wheels dig deeper and make it harder to get out. And this forcing is counterproductive when people are involved too. Imagine a child asking his mother for candy. "No," says Mama. The child asks again. "No," says Mama. The child asks again. "No," says Mama, annoyed now. The child comes back 10 minutes later and asks again. "No," says Mama, now wishing that she had never introduced her child to the concept of candy and never wanting to give him candy again. The same thing happens when you try to push yourself to change. When you keep beating your head against the same brick wall, you lock in tension and frustration. You lose the ability to think flexibly and see new options. You're digging a rut in your own mind. This is what I learned in my years as a teacher. Determination is not enough. And worse, it can be painfully inefficient. Say I wanted to learn a new foreign language from scratch. If I tried to learn the language from a news broadcast on the radio, I'd get nowhere. It would just sound like a bunch of noise. I could listen to the radio for an hour every day for 6 months, and I'd get pretty much nothing out of it no matter how hard I concentrated. But suppose I spent the same 6 months investing an hour a day in simple conversation practice with a native speaker, plus some grammar and vocabulary lessons. At the end of 6 months of diligent practice on easy stuff, I'd be able to listen to that same news broadcast and understand a lot of it. I'd have paved a pathway without directly working on it. And that indirect approach is going to be the key to finding a solution to your big problem, or at least a way around it. We know that the way to make change happen effectively is to start with first principles. We begin with the ideals that we hold, our vision for the future, our mission. These things become the scaffolding that everything else is built upon. The problem is that sometimes this approach is too abstract and idealistic to help us in the day-to-day. The vision is too lofty and we can't translate it into action. So when your big, challenging problem isn't responding to your heroic efforts to fix it, what I recommend is to fix something easy and small instead. Even something completely unrelated. When you shift your focus from that big obstacle you've been trying to leap over, like, should I get a divorce? Should I get a new job? Should I start a business? You start to see little problems, little annoyances that you've been putting up with because you're so focused on the idea that if you could just solve the big problem, all these little problems would just go away. But actually, dealing with the little things might be the key to the transformation that will eventually allow you to see the big thing differently. Think of it as productive distraction. While you do necessary work, you might be indirectly building your capacity to solve your problem or biding your time until conditions change. For a lot of tenacious, high-achieving people, this feels too passive. It feels like giving up or avoiding hard work. But this approach might actually be the path directly to the hard work you've been avoiding. That's because sometimes a problem can become like a pet. We feed it with our attention and give it undue space in our life as we fixate on it. The more challenging move might be to accept the limitation of what our effort and attention can accomplish with our pet problem, and to turn that effort and attention to even deeper problems we have yet to solve. Of course, it's not all that deep. Some of the stuff you could do is pretty straightforward, like maybe it's just taking back the overdue library books, or developing a system to make sure you never run out of toilet paper. But it could also be more meaningful, like standing up for yourself in a situation in which you'd ordinarily let things go. When these things are out of the shadow of the big problem, you can find new opportunities to grow, or get a new perspective on your circumstances. When that happens, we see choices that used to be invisible. For instance, is it really worth your time to be on hold for 2 hours over the course of 3 days just to get a $10 charge removed from your phone bill when you have 100 other ways to save $10, and a million ways to make $10. Have you fixed the weather stripping around your back door? Have you sent that follow-up email? Have you watered your plants? There are so many ways you can channel your resources once you let go of your belief that it's only progress on your pet problem that matters. Even if you never solve that problem, you'll be living a better life in the meantime. Still, the problem is there in the background, and at some point you want a resolution. You want answers. How do you get there? Are you just going to stay busy with productive distraction forever? You already know that you can't change conditions with more effort. The wind, time, and tide need to do their work. But what about the part you do have control over? When you can't wring anything new out of the conversation with yourself, you step away. You go for long walks, read books, make good meals, and learn new things. And at some point, the answer will come to you in the middle of a shower or a conversation, and you'll be absolutely sure of what to do. By then, it won't seem like a big deal at all. It won't be dramatic. It'll feel like just another step forward. And that lack of drama will make you wonder why it was so hard to get here. Like all of those silly hero's journey quests that just land the protagonist right back at home.
You've always had the power to go back to Kansas.
Gee, thanks, lady. You could have just told me. It saved me a lot of hassle. But no, we have to go through a whole stupid process and learn and grow. But that's how your capacity increases. Not just your improved toolkit for problem solving, but also your ability to tolerate uncertainty and the discomfort of navigating situations where you're not in control of everything. Even with increased capacity, you'll still encounter problems that'll push you to your limit. That's how your limit will keep expanding. It's a never-ending cycle. But with a better understanding of the process, you'll be able to handle it with more calm and confidence, even when that boulder won't budge.